Dr. Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of the View co-host Sonny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases.
For more, we go to our chief Sonny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
It's safe to say Sonny Hostin thought her day couldn't get any worse. Then Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus showed up, armed with sarcasm sharp enough to start a wildfire. What began with her husband's absurd $450 million lawsuit quickly turned into a full-blown comedy roast. The next moment brought sheer embarrassment, served piping hot. Gutfeld fired off jabs with relentless speed, while Tyrus landed punchlines that hit like thunder. Through it all, Sonny stayed silent, her calm expression worthy of an Oscar for Best Poker Face. But what exactly sent the situation spinning out of control? Let's just say this courtroom circus had more twists than anyone could have imagined, overflowing with drama, secret dealings, and legal chaos beyond belief.
31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system, and you know, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, you know, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do.
And it is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who.
For years, Sonny Hostin has ruled The View like the Supreme Court of daytime TV, gavel in one hand, moral authority in the other. She doesn't just share opinions, she delivers verdicts. One wrong word and you're practically exiled from breakfast. But this week, the self-proclaimed guardian of legal virtue got caught in her own web of scandal. At the center, her marriage and a baffling $450 million lawsuit. Her family's drama has now turned into a courtroom spectacle, one dripping with irony so thick you could slice it with a gavel.
That will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
Grab your popcorn. Tyrus and Greg Gutfeld turned up their sarcasm to levels worthy of Mount Olympus itself. Sonny has long mastered the art of outrage. On a show that often felt more like a verbal battleground than a discussion, she always fought to keep the moral high ground, no matter the emotion. But now, reports suggest her husband may be entangled in a massive financial scandal that makes FTX look like a school fundraiser. Suddenly, due process and privacy have become her favorite principles. How convenient. Imagine that. The queen of courtroom judgments now playing defense. Her trademark sass has vanished, replaced by uneasy silence. The hypocrisy in this situation runs so deep, you'd need a shovel to move it.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sonny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sonny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sonny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners.
Sonny usually radiates righteous anger and thinly veiled disdain whenever someone else is under fire. But when the spotlight turned to her own marriage, the loudest legal voice on daytime TV suddenly discovered the strength of silence. Impressive, truly. Then came Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus, masters of sarcasm sharp enough to rule a small nation. They weren't about to waste the moment, tearing into the hypocrisy before them like wolves at a feast.
Makes Sonny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
Sonny Hostin might take the prize for gullibility if she truly thinks the solar eclipse is caused by climate change. Everyone knows it's the moon's gravitational pull. Basic science, not politics. And right on cue, Greg Gutfeld turned the moment into a televised celebration. He's a master at exposing media hypocrisy with the precision of a marksman and the humor of a seasoned comic. Honestly, Sunny's singed reputation might have fared better if Tyrus had just handed her some marshmallows. Then comes the $450 million fiasco, an alleged legal disaster so massive it makes Enron look like a minor blunder. Whispers online claim her husband faces accusations of fraud and financial chaos. But who's keeping track? Certainly not Sunny, who suddenly sounds less like a prosecutor and more like a broken Alexa. Confused and disconnected, the irony is almost poetic. This is the same woman who built a career swooping in on others' legal missteps like a hawk spotting prey. Yet now, while her own world burns, reflection seems far from reach. It's beyond irony, it's performance art. And Gutfeld, he turned the entire spectacle into a mock showdown disguised as commentary.
Their brains are small, but who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now the View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
If hypocrisy were an Olympic event, Sunny Hostin would easily take home the gold. While Tyrus stood by, sharpening his verbal blade, Greg Gutfeld dissected the double standards with the glee of a kid unwrapping presents. He was unstoppable. Tyrus joined in, delivering jokes with the calm precision of someone who spent too many afternoons watching daytime TV. His punchlines cut deep, unveiling not just the scandal, but the smugness, self-righteousness, and fading credibility that came with it. And when the Queen of Condescension inevitably dropped her crown, you could count on Tyrus to offer a velvet cushion beneath it. Meanwhile, The View's co-hosts, the so-called paragons of outrage, fell eerily silent. Joy Behar, usually loud enough to be heard from orbit, looked stunned. Whoopi Goldberg, typically full of moral sermons, could only shrug. Apparently, the outrage fades fast when Sunny's name appears on the court docket. Funny, considering these same voices once erupted into chaos over a conservative's simple slip of the tongue.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They call them Hitler, they call these things. America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game.
After a pointless $450 million case tied to one of their own, things got messy fast. Convenient, isn't it? Social media exploded like a spark in a gas tank. Memes flooded timelines, and Twitter turned into a roast pit with Sunny as the main course. Greg Gutfeld, always ready for a moment like this, used the chaos to sharpen his attack on media elitism. He called out the classic double standard where accountability only matters when someone else is in trouble. Funny how the moral high ground feels a lot less sturdy when it's collapsing under your own feet, he quipped before adding with his signature dry tone, a show built on honesty and transparency has somehow developed selective laryngitis. Then came Tyrus, mocking the absurdity of Sunny offering legal insight while allegedly helping draft statements about her husband's missing millions. Her moral compass, he joked, might be spinning faster than a politician hooked up to a lie detector.
Time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm gonna go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Really? You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any, is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then. Yeah. She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
The real twist? It was as if The View pretended the whole thing never happened. Not a word, not even a hint. They can spend 20 minutes dissecting Taylor Swift's exes, yet can't spare 60 seconds for a $450 million scandal from one of their own. Maybe it's cowardice, or maybe it's strategy. Take your pick. Wrapping up his show, Greg Gutfeld added a final jab of poetic irony by inviting Sunny to appear on his program to discuss accountability. The sarcasm was thick enough to bottle. Beside him, Tyrus leaned in with his trademark smirk. No words needed. But Sunny isn't the only one under the spotlight. This entire mess exposes a deeper hypocrisy across the media landscape. The same truth tellers who preach justice turn their own missteps into absurd theater. They treat the law like sacred scripture until someone reminds them their principles are written on paper, thinner than their excuses.
Matt, in The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and was it Bette Midler?
That's right, Jordan.
Broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back.
Sunny's defenders argue she shouldn't be blamed for her husband's actions, and on paper that sounds fair, but let's not forget, this is the same woman who spent years investigating the families of political rivals like a host of CSI Hypocrisy. Now that the tables have turned, she's suddenly asking for context and understanding. This isn't just a double standard, it's a double-decker irony sandwich with denial on top. And the fallout is far from over. Sunny may need more than a few commercial breaks to recover, perhaps a refined version of her trademark glare, a temporary leave, or a public statement. Whatever she chooses, her credibility has already taken a serious hit. To be fair, The View was never a beacon of journalistic integrity, but the scandal tore away the curtain. Behind it stand a group of hosts preaching self-awareness while scrambling to protect their own image like characters in a daily soap opera. Let's be real. They're more likely to trip over their contradictions than admit them. Expecting honesty here is about as realistic as Sunny filling out her husband's bail paperwork live on TV.
That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
If The View had a mute button for awkward scandals, Sunny Hostin would have mastered it by now. And honestly, her reputation depended on it. The queen of dramatic legal rants suddenly turned into the high priestess of silence. When her husband's $450 million fiasco surfaced, the same woman who could deliver a 10-minute lecture about a squirrel sneezing on Capitol Hill was suddenly speechless. Coincidence? Sure, right up there with pigs starting a business. Her usual sharp cross-examinations and endless legal talk vanished. The fierce justice warrior had transformed into a human screensaver. As she shuffled her note cards and blinked nervously, it looked like she was negotiating her own plea deal. Watching her was like seeing a lawyer play charades during a tax audit. Every stiff movement and exaggerated sip from her mug seemed to scream, "Please don't bring up the giant scandal dancing through this segment." Her body language said it all, shoulders tense enough to snap glass, arms crossed tighter than a vault. One moment she's nodding like a bobblehead in law school. The next she looks lost in thought as if counting ceiling tiles might reveal legal advice.
She is shaming descendants of this. Will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Sunny sat frozen between Whoopi's eye rolls and Joy's rambling, looking as if she just read her husband's bail terms off her cue cards. Whenever the conversation veered toward fraud, corruption, or public embarrassment, her gaze dropped straight to the floor. That blank look wasn't deep thought, it was a silent plea to vanish. Spoiler, it didn't work. Greg Gutfeld noticed, of course, so did the audience and everyone on Twitter. He misses nothing. Sunny, once famous for interrupting with, "Actually, that's not how due process works," now seemed focused only on controlling her expression. The irony, this time her husband is the one actually getting due process from a real courtroom. The same interruptions that once made her the loudest legal voice now echo back like ghosts, haunting her credibility. As viewers watch in uneasy silence, waiting for her to snap or argue with her own reflection, Sunny blinks, sips from her oversized mug, and pretends it's filled with invisibility potion. But this isn't composure, it's desperation. A struggle to outsip, outblink, and outlast a scandal too massive to hide.
Anna went in a different direction, but I love the fact that, Manny is younger and he's
How much younger is he?
Just a little bit.
He's like 1 year, isn't he?
Like a month or a year or 10 years?
5 years.
It's more than a year. Anyway, it's not about me. I think that it's very helpful that he's handy, and when we travel, I'm not picking up any bags. He's the one that's hefting them overhead. He throws the garbage out. He does the heavy stuff.
Sorry, Sonny, but karma isn't something you can cross-examine. What America didn't know it needed was the kind of poetic justice Tyrus and Greg Gutfeld delivered. In a world overflowing with double standards, watching the self-righteous stumble feels oddly satisfying. Will Sonny bounce back? Probably. The View has a history of forgiving its hosts, provided they keep their lectures within approved moral boundaries. This could even become her redemption story, maybe complete with a TED Talk titled When Justice Hits Too Close to Home. Until then, the memes keep spreading, the internet keeps laughing, and Gutfeld and Tyrus keep circling her hypocrisy like vultures armed with punchlines. Because when you spend your career handing down moral verdicts, the gavel eventually swings back. And in Sonny's case, it hit hard enough to knock the smugness right out of her highlight reel. Remember this, the loudest voices are often the first to choke on their own words, especially when Tyrus and Gutfeld are standing by with the jokes and the receipts.